Hi, I'm Joy. I'm here with Alicia, and we're talking about, I believe it's your love life.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So I have your astrology chart, and we can look at that in a little bit. But before we do that, let's just hear from you. Go ahead and just whatever's on your mind on the subject. Let's chat about it.
Okay. Well, it probably took me a long time throughout my life to actually figure out what I even wanted from life. There was a lot of exploring and trying to figure it out. Now I'm kind of feel like I'm getting on track. I have a career that I enjoy, and I'm getting better and better at that. And I'm, you know, uh, my personal life is going good. I have steady friendships. Um, I eat healthy. I exercise. I feel like I'm getting everything together now. But I don't feel like I'm quite there with relationships. I feel like maybe I'm not giving enough attention to that area of my life, and I think that's strange because it's an important aspect to me, but I don't really understand why I don't seem to be excelling at that the way that I have taken control of everything else.
Yeah, I see. So I'm so happy that you said it like that because because it like really highlights something in your chart. So you are a Sagittarius, and you also have. I'm just gonna like pull your chart up so I don't misspeak. I know I saw Mercury there too, and I think your moon as well. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. So your sun, moon, and Mercury, all very important things in your chart, are all in Sagittarius, and you are a Leo ascendant. That's a lot of fire. You're a very fiery person, and fire is yang, so you're more like yang person. And even just looking at let's see here. Oh yeah, so you also have Mars, which is another personal planet.
Dominic baby sitting like that call. Sorry.
That's cool. If you ever want to like just pause for a minute, I can hit the pause button on Zoom. So feel free to say that if that's the case. But you also have Mars in Aries, which is another very fiery, very important placement. So you've got all this like, yeah, like this a lot of spirit, a lot of energy to like go out into the world. And what you said about like exploring exploring life and figuring out what you want from life and that sort of thing fits with Sagittarius. Like Sagittarius is fire, but it's mutable fire, so it's very much about like exploring and like changing your perspective when it's appropriate to do so. And that that all makes a lot of sense. And so the thing, how this is relevant to your chart is that you've got your North Node in Pisces in the 7th house. Now, the 7th house is the part of your life that is about relationships, one-to-one partnerships. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be romantic relationships. It's also about like, your BFFs and your like business partnerships, anything where it's like very like important one-to-one relationships in your life. And that includes romantic relationships too, certainly. But having your North Node there basically means, I have this placement, by the way, my North Node is in my 7th house as well. So basically it means that when you came into this life, the idea was that you did it to learn how to be good at relationships, basically. And that means that you're starting out from a comfort zone in the 1st house, which is all about like being you and independence. And that's your comfort zone. So it's very easy with, you know, with the South Node in the first house, which is ruled by Aries. So it's a very, very fiery placement too. And all this other fire in your chart, you're very much somebody who feels most comfortable just like going out there and like grabbing life by the balls, you know, like it's what you said was very telling, like you have everything in line and you've taken control of all these other areas of your life. But when it comes to relationships, that approach isn't going to work for you. And you are pretty much here in this lifetime to learn how to not do that, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have this book here. It's really good. It's like based on depth psychology, like, you know, the field that Carl Jung was very,
Oh, okay,
very
right.
much all about.
Right.
And how it relates to astrology. And the book is basically about north nodes. And in the back of it, it talks about houses. There's like a little description of each of the north node in each house. So it talks about how you're going to feel on track each time you experience yourself, freely choosing to be in an intimate relationship with someone who truly honors who you are. You will feel off track if you withdraw into yourself every time a problem arises in your relationships. And when I read that, oh, like zing, ouch, like because like I've been a serial monogamist for pretty much since I was like 14 years old. So like I've always been in relationships with, you know, little breaks in between sometimes. But what I would do is like start out very enthusiastic, and then like I'd feel like a little rejection here or there, like a difficulty in the relationship here or there, and then I would withdraw into myself and put, like, I'd stay in the relationship, but I'd put more distance in the relationship and try to be like less vulnerable and focus like if somebody if some if somebody you know, if my partner hurt me, instead of like working through it together and like giving my partner the opportunity to address the situation with me and talk things out and have a deeper bond at the end of it, you know, as issues in relationships offer opportunities to do that, if, you know, if it's if the relationship's a good fit. Instead of doing that, I would just find a way to be okay with it and just make myself care less and be more independent within the relationship. And even at the beginning, I was always very, very independent in relationships. So I don't know if any of this is bringing true for you, like if you're identifying, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so there's all that. And then on top of it, there's also the fact that it's in Pisces. Now, Pisces is a water sign, so it's all about feelings, basically. And that includes intuition, sensation, and emotions. So it's a very, very feeling kind of place, kind of energy expression. And in addition to that, it's mutable. So it's flexible, it changes. And Pisces is the last sign in the zodiac before the cycle begins again with Aries. So it's very much like about moving beyond yourself in a way. So there's a sort of surrender with it. It's very like, are you familiar with the Serenity Prayer by chance?
Yeah. A
All
little
right.
bit.
So it, like the Serenity Prayer, I'm gonna hopefully say it, is God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And in my life right now, I'm focusing a lot on learning that wisdom to tell the difference, and like when it's appropriate to surrender and what the place for personal power is. But when it comes to Pisces, it's very much that serenity to accept the things that you cannot change. And, you know, it's very, very flowy, basically. So your approach to relationships that you're like basically destined to learn in this life is how to be just like flowy and surrendered when it comes to relationships, and just kind of like trust the universe sort of a thing, like it's going to sort itself out and just like flow like water.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I mean, there's always, charts are very complex. I've read a number of astrology books, and a lot of them, and articles too, and a lot of them are written by astrologers who have been doing it for like, 4 decades. And a common theme that I see in them is that even after all this time, they still see new things in their charts, every once in
Right.
a
Yeah.
while. So it's kind of like an endless, it's kind of endless, there's always more to see. So this is just like one tiny little component of it.
Okay.
Um, there's another thing that stands out to me, but I want to stop talking for a moment to give you a chance to you a chance to say like anything that might have come to mind related to all this.
Um, I don't think anything really came to mind. Also, my son kept coming in. I'm sorry, but
That's fine.
I was trying to wave off. Um, but I don't think anything in particular came to mind though.
Right. Does it kind of feel like okay, so about the nodes some more. The north node is very much this like it feels really good, like empowered, and like the universe is like helping you out with it whenever you go into it. But it's possible to like go too far into it sometimes. So the key is to integrate the lessons of your south node into the expression of your north node, and to find a balance between the two. And
Hmm.
that's important for like anything in life, frankly. But in astrology, the nodal axis, the north and south nodes, are particularly challenging to balance. And there's this sweet spot where you embody all of these valuable lessons from your south node and bring them into your north node expression. So for you, being like, so Virgo is opposite Pisces, and it's in your first house. So you're going to have like a little bit of a perfectionistic, like um, practical focus and like health focus when it comes to your own um, like physical manifestation in the world. Like like your existence itself is going to be a bit focused on that. And the key is going to be to hang on to that and be your authentic self, be that person, while at the same time surrendering yourself into a partnership with someone. And it'll be important to be like valued for who you truly are, for your authentic self. And it just it's a matter, especially when it comes to a very surrendered north node like this, it's kind of just a matter of like letting it happen when the time is right, and just having faith that it will happen. And just doing your thing, and making yourself the best partner you possibly can to attract the ideal mate for yourself, essentially. And then not giving up those things that are important to how you exist in the world once you're in a relationship, keeping that,
Hmm.
but also having that like well, when you get into a relationship, like it kind of has a life of its own. It's got like, everyone's got their own energy, but a relationship has its own energy too. It's like
Right.
like when two people come together, it forms its own energy. It's got like almost got like a will of its own, you could say. So kind of like surrendering yourself into that while still being the, you know, independent, awesome person that you are. So there's another thing that stood out in your chart. You actually have a grand trine with your north node and Chiron in Cancer in the 11th and Venus in Scorpio in the 3rd. So with Venus and Scorpio in the 3rd, like, okay, so Scorpio is like deep and intense, and there's darkness with Scorpio. It's like the edgelord sign, right? And with your Venus there, your sense of beauty and what's lovely in life is related to this kind of like intense, like emotionally attached, like private or secretive. And well, there's just so much to say about Scorpio. It's like one of the most intriguing signs. So your sense of beauty is in Scorpio, and it trines your north node. And being in the 3rd house, you're going to express yourself in that manner. And a trine means that it actively, there's active support of your north node. It'll like actively feed energy to your north node. And then the 3rd point, a trine is basically, like a grand trine is basically just like this huge triangle in your chart. Is Chiron in Cancer in the 11th house. So Chiron is our deepest pain, basically. And being in Cancer means it's about emotions and emotional expression. And being in the 11th house means that it's related to like your friend groups and like organizations that you belong to. And there's also a focus on like progressiveness and technology and that sort of thing, but largely it's like, it's not like your BFFs like the 7th house is. It's more like your wider social sphere. So so when you do healing related to that, the emotional wounds with Chiron, and when you focus on like expressing yourself in this beautiful, like intense, like edgelord kind of way. I don't mean to be flippant about it, but I love Scorpio and I love calling Scorpio edgelord. But anyways, both of those things are going to help you get into that north node. Like they're going to actively help you do that. So it has to do with a lot of emotional processing. And I mean, there's more there, but I don't want to throw too much at you all at once.
Right.
How do you feel about the idea that the idea of being like surrendered about the subject of relationships and just like a faith that it'll work out when it works out and that sort of thing?
I like the idea of the surrender. I think that's a beautiful thought. The 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 thought of just letting things naturally play out, um, that's a little bit more difficult because I want to know what's coming next. I want to know, is this worth my time doing right now, or is this going to have a positive outcome, or am I wasting my time? That sort of thing. Like that sort of thing is going to be harder, I think. But
For sure. Understandably, I think most people feel that way. And the fact that your comfort zone is exactly the opposite of that, letting things work themselves out thing. For you, it's going to be particularly challenging. But when you do it, you'll be rewarded, though. It's kind of part of the idea of the North Node.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm right there with you. I feel you, and I think most people would. Like, it's
Right.
hard to
Yeah.
let go. You know, it's hard to let go of the wheel and just trust that you're going to get there. You know, that's actually kind of reminds me of a dream that I had once. I was involved in this very difficult relationship,
Hmm.
and I had this dream that he and I were in this car together, driving down the highway, and there's storm clouds around us, but we're safe in the car. And then at some point, all of a sudden, I'm like, "Whoa, what's happening?" Because I'm in the back seat with him. Like, we're both just in the back seat, and the car's driving itself. And I'm like, "Whoa, the symbolism." You know, like, I thought that
Right.
I was driving. I thought I was the one making the car go and controlling where it was going. I wasn't. I just thought I was. I felt
Right.
safer at least, but
Hmm.
really the car was going of its own accord, and it was heading to a destination of its own choosing, and the best I could do is kind of just like sit back and enjoy the ride, and trust that it would get there when it got there, and it would be the right place, and that I'd be safe in the car in the meantime.
Hmm.
And I'm not going to say that I didn't get hurt
Right.
hard, but I can look back and see that it was exactly what needed to happen.
Hmm.
There was so much growth out of it. So even though it was like painful lessons, like, it was definitely in my best interests. And you know, I was able to like build, you know, to take what I learned from that and build on it in the future, and you know, get into better situations. But one of the things that relationships do is show us ourselves, and that's hard.
Hmm.
But especially with like this nodal axis, the north and south nodes in the first and seventh, that's hard. But you know, just letting it be what it is. You know, when it's hard, it's hard, and that's that's been the ticket for me, at least. Well, is there anything else that comes to mind?
Hmm. Um, no.
All right, awesome. Um, there is one more thing I could say about your chart, and it's that placement that I mentioned with Chiron and Cancer.
Hmm.
It is opposite, and this is like, these are all like people who were born anytime around the time you were born are going to have all of these placements: Chiron, Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn moves a little bit faster, but Saturn's right in there too. But basically, Chiron is opposite all this stuff in Capricorn. So not just you, but like anybody born around the same time you were, like, you know, within like a year or so, say, off the top of my head, is going to be dealing with this. So it's kind of a generational thing. But basically, there's this like, there are challenges in the Cancer Capricorn axis that are good for growth and balance. And I also want to mention that you have some, what we call a T-square, or like a few T-squares in your chart. So you've got this like Cancer Capricorn thing, which I actually have a video about that. It talks about the higher and lower expression of Cancer, and you could check that out if you wanted to.
Okay.
And there's a T-square with Mars in Aries, so it's important to balance that out with some focus on Libra. And I actually also have a video about the higher and lower expression of Aries already posted. So it's kind of funny. Those
Okay.
are, I've done 3 of them, and 2 of them are Aries and Cancer. But, and then I also have one on Mars. So if you want to, you could check
Right.
those out. And basically, the idea is that in order to take the pressure off of Mars in Aries of the 8th house, you're going to want to focus on Libra a little bit to help move the energy around. Otherwise, you can get stuck in that Mars in the 8th, which is a pretty intense placement. So I just thought I would mention that as well. And I can explain a little bit more once we're done here if you want, but otherwise we can kind of just wrap this up, I think.
Okay.
Thank you for talking to me. I'm really glad that we
No
did
problem.
this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.